This Palo Verde tree behind me is beautiful. It's in full bloom, and yes, Clint grew that from seed. However, I don't appreciate the fact that this tree is playing games with me. Stay tuned to find out why. Hello and welcome back to the Adobe Ring Ranch. After a morning spent of taking some Agastache cuttings and caging up some of my smaller figs so that the rabbits don't get to them before they get to any size, I've taken a little walk around the garden, and I thought today would be a great day to give you a quick run through and see what the update on the progress on some of these plants are. Today's date is April 21st, so we still have a long way to go in this growing season. Okay, so coming down the ramp here, we'll start on the left-hand side of the garden, and my squashes are doing great in this little bed. This one here is a yellow summer squash, and in the back here I have two acorn squashes, so that'll be more of a fall squash, and these will be my summers. This one is a yellow squash, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but down in the center of the plant, I actually have a baby squash coming out right there. Normally the first fruits to set like this don't mature or get fertilized, so I'm not too hopeful on those, but that's okay. If anyone's ever grown summer squash, you do know that they do grow fast. Here you go. Here's another close-up of another female fruit, that yellow squash that's starting, and that little blossom in front of it's actually a male flower. I think I could show you the difference between male and female flowers once we swing around to the cucumber patch. But as you can see, the male flowers are not open yet, so I don't think it's going to open up in time to fertilize the actual fruit, but let's see what happens. There's a number of male flowers on this plant, so maybe it'll outpace the female blossoms and fertilize it. Oh, by the way, the back home, if you ever saw this silvery coloring on the leaves, you'd probably freak out and think it's some sort of foliage fungus and start to panic. But here I don't have that much of a problem with fungus because the weather is a little humid at times, but for the most part dry. That is the actual natural color of the leaves. It has like a silvery gray, green color to these leaves. So no, it is not a fungus. In between here, the two beds, I've got something called a yucca. I'm going to do another video on the yuccas later on. I popped in a little Mexican sunflower. This is not your regular sunflower that everyone knows about. This is going to be a smaller size, bright orange flower. The plant itself could grow up to 5 feet tall and bloom its head off. The heat does not bother it here in the summer, so it's a must-have here in Texas anyway. This particular tomato plant was one of the ones I popped in. This one would be early girl. I wanted an early girl here because of the summertime temps. Once it gets too hot here, the tomato plant will set off blossoms, but it will not produce pollen. Sounds crazy, but it's true. So even though you get flowers, Once those temperatures are above 95 degrees, the plant will not produce pollen and you will not get fruit until the temperatures cool down again. So the trick is to do 2 plantings of tomatoes. One would be this time of the year, early or late spring, early summer, and then you can try doing a fall crop later on. Another trick is to plant the early maturing varieties, such as Early Girl, so that you can get some fruit. And let me see if I can zero in on this, but I actually do have 2 fruits already next to each other. Here we go, 1 and 2. So hopefully, with any luck, I will get a couple of tomatoes out of her. She is blooming her head off. There are flower blossoms everywhere on this plant. So with any luck, at least I'll get a few tomatoes off her. Coming back around again, space in between the next bed, I popped in some zinnias. I just want some extra color here. And we went back with more tomatoes here. These will be the larger size tomatoes. We've got a German pink. We've got a chef's choice. We've got one that I actually took the seeds out of a Costco tomato last summer, saved them and planted it. So I'm going to wait to see how that looks. And this one here is called Abe Lincoln. And they are starting to give me some blossoms, even though these plants are still on the small side. Moving ahead, more zinnias in between, different color, I believe. And then when we get to this bin, these would be my paste tomatoes. I've got 2 different varieties of paste tomatoes here. They were not looking good yesterday, and with closer inspection, I found that they were being attacked by the flea beetle. So I did a quick insecticidal soap to try to control that. And these plants do look 10 times better today, and they're greening back up again. So I'm hoping I caught that in time. Coming back through the next bed, more zinnias. And I go back to larger size tomatoes here. I've got a lemon boy. I've got a celebrity. I've got Cherokee Purple and something called Stellar. These ones are doing exceptionally well as well. And I do have some blossoms starting to form on these plants as well. So let's see how that goes. Moving over, more zinnias. I left some natural wild flowers in this bed as well, just for contrast of color. This bed here, back to tomatoes, and these would be my cherry tomatoes. I've got a Sun Gold on the left here. I have a Sweet 100 on the back side here, and something called Yellow Apple Yellow. It's a pear-shaped cherry tomato, and that will be yellow in color. Getting back to that Palo Verde issue I had with it playing games with me. As you can see, the tomato flowers are yellow and the cherry tomatoes are blooming like crazy. So of course I'm getting excited. So what's happening is that those Palo Verde flowers from the trees are falling off and floating down and landing in my tomato plants, which is causing me to believe that the tomato plants are blooming when in fact they were not blooming. So I don't appreciate the little game. All right, so moving along, I replanted some more Mexican sunflowers on this side to mimic the first part of the vegetable tour. We have a yucca in the corner here, desert plant. I'll do a video on that later. I had purchased an Agastache here. He's just starting to wake up. from his winter dormancy. That'll have an orangey colored tubular flower, which will be great for the hummingbirds. I just did a video on my green beans. They're still holding in there, especially after we had wind gusts up to 50 to 60 miles an hour last night. Good thing I tied them up. Moving around the side here, we've got our atomic red carrots, which are doing really well. On this side, we have a orange carrot that should be a little bit on the shorter side, but I don't understand why the growth is so much smaller, but we'll see how that goes. I still have my scallions over here. They're just not quite big enough to pull up yet. My sunflowers are doing great. This larger one over here is actually starting to put out a blossom here. So when that opens up, that should be cool. That's going to be a reddish colored sunflower. I have another one here and another smaller one starting on this side. Moving along, all my lettuce plants are starting to take a beating with these 80-degree temperatures, so I'm trying to eat them up as quickly as possible. I still have a couple of flowers planted in there. If they start to tank, I'm just going to replace them with some extra pepper or tomato plants that I have. Here's that first greens bed that I have planted. I still have some spinach, some assorted lettuce plants. I've got my kale on either side, and I am noticing that the cutter bee damage is really starting to do a number on my Swiss chard and the kale, so I'm going to have to do something with those fairly quickly. These are the peas that I had. These are snap peas. I'm just growing those for the pods. I'm not growing them for the peas. And again, the cutter bees have decimated this plant completely. The top new growth is coming back, but is going to be too late. And I just discovered a little bit earlier today that I actually have one little pea pod here. So I'm going to be eating that tomorrow morning. So at least I can say I grew it and see what it tastes like. But look what they did to these other plants here. They just rip off a section of the leaf, they fly back to their little hive, build their little hives, and then they come back and they take another little chunk. So with the peas, I'm going to have to get them in the ground a lot earlier than I did, grow them in the cooler weather, and the cutter bees are not active until the weather temps are like in the 80s consistently. And they do have a time period of late spring to early summer. So they do stop in the summertime, but again, I can't grow peas in the summertime. It's just too hot. Finish off the bed with another yucca over here. And as you can see, it's just setting bud. These will be a beautiful red flower, tubular flower. Hummingbirds love that as well. And I will be doing a short video on that because there's an interesting story on those. Moving around back this way, we've got more tomatoes planted here. I forgot the varieties already. It's probably not important. Celebrity Plus here is doing great. Tomato Ace, this one here, when I put it in the ground, I didn't think it was going to make it, and it's doing great right now. I still have some cilantro plants in the center, so I'll let them get a little bit bigger before I harvest them. This is the second batch of scallions here. I'm not sure how well they're going to do. Might be getting a little too late, but time will tell. This one, I just did a video not too long ago about all of my cabbages, my broccoli, cauliflower. So you can check that one out. I won't bore you with a repeat. This bed here, I've got my jalapeno pepper. On this side, I've got my eggplant, which was getting devoured. I think this was caused by a grasshopper. The chew marks are just way too big for anything else, but I think I took care of that situation, and hopefully this plant will rebound nicely. And right here is the start of an eggplant flower. So with any luck, I will get some fruit off that in a couple of weeks, and hopefully it can outgrow the bug damage. I remember last summer there was not a bug problem at all, so it must be just an early seasonal thing. This is also a pepper, but this one is a bell pepper. And as you can see, I've got a flower that just opened there. So with any luck, I'll have peppers. And the front would be my seedling onions. They seem to be kicking in now. I don't know why. Everybody today got side dressed with some fertilizer before I watered the plants in. So let's see if that helps at all. Swinging back over here, I did a video on my green beans and how I planted a second crop within my pepper cages here. So again, I won't go into too much detail about this bed, but the watermelons are up and down the center here. I'm loving this amaranthus so far. The coloring on this leaf is unbelievable. It will get a flower. To my knowledge, in Africa, they actually eat the leaves. They put it in stew. They toss them in salads, and the seeds of this plant they can grind down and make like a flour. I'm not going to get into all of that. Maybe this year, not this year anyway, but who knows if I get too bored. My pepper plants have definitely doubled in size, so I'm very pleased about that because again, I was concerned about the pepper plants, but they're up and moving. Swinging over to this side, my onions here are doing fantastic. I cannot get over how well they're doing. Again, the month is up and I side dressed all of these with some fertilizer, and the center would be my zinnias that I put in the middle here. They are starting to set bud as well. I did a rotation of red, pink, red, pink, red, pink. So we're going to wait and see how that looks once they open up. And I do know that a lot of people suggest pinching these back to promote side shoots. I have never pinched back my zinnias, and as you can see, I am getting quite a bit of side shoots here. So as far as I'm concerned, that's been debunked for me. The zinnias will do that on their own. Obviously, if they were growing long and leggy from being inside too long, maybe I would pinch them back, but they are doing great here right now. Swinging around the front of the zinnias, I have a few more zinnias planted just to bring over the color. Over here, you remember that I took all of the sticks from some trimmings that Clint had done with some of the plants around the property, and what I had done was plant cucumber plants so they can crawl up rather than flop all over the ground. It'll save me some space. The end one here is a pickling cucumber. This one is your regular size cucumber, and this is a later planting of a pickling cucumber. The first batch I had planted, the seeds were too old and the germination rate was not great, so I went back and replanted with the seeds from that first plant I showed you. I was a little confused about why the regular size cucumber here was so much smaller than the pickling cucumber. Normally they outpace the pickling cucumber as far as vegetated growth. But I soon discovered that after I checked the name of the plant, it's called Space Master. The reason why it's called Space Master is because the vines do grow shorter. It saves on space. So that's why that is shorter than um, I was thinking it would have been. If I knew that sooner, I probably would have planted that on one of the ends and kept the pickling cucumbers on each side. Earlier I discussed about male and female blossoms on the squash. Let me see if I can show you. Here is a cucumber blossom. That is a male flower. If you look at the base here, it's just a stem and then a flower. There's no small cucumber down there. But if you swing around to, where is it? Let me come around this side. This side. I can't get it into focus. Right here, you see there's the flower bud right there, but at the base of the flower bud you will see these small cucumber forming. That would be the female. So the male flowers come out first, the female flowers will open up second, and you'll get your cross or your pollination occurring, and your fruit will form. I had just spotted that earlier today. Let's see, coming around, I have more of those yuccas that are planted on both sides of the ramp leading up to the shed, and they are starting to sprout. Makes me happy. Coming around, we have a Palo Verde tree. This one's the one that was fooling me with the yellow flowers. Clint just informed me that the two that are on each side of the shed here are a blue Palo Verde. The stems have a tendency to be a more bluish green than a green color. He also informed me that he got these from his friends Lori and Brian in California. So they do have a little special place for us here, and they seem to be doing fairly well. So fingers crossed they continue to do so. Swinging around, we get into my little fruit patch. This here would be my blueberry plant, and it is netted. And let me see if I can zero in. Here's some blueberries starting to form there. People say you can't grow blueberries here in this location due to the fact that our soils are alkaline and blueberries like acidic soil. So back home on the East Coast, we have acidic soil. Blueberries do well. Another problem will be the chill factor. You need to have a blueberry here that would require less chill hours. Back home, it wouldn't matter because it's freezing there. Anyway, I can beat the system by choosing varieties with the low chill hour, and because I am growing most of my plants in a raised bed, I can alter the soil. I've got non-native soil here. It's all compost and topsoil mixes that I've tossed in here. I've also applied a acidic type of fertilizer, something called Berrytone. It just supplies a little more acid to the planting hole, which helps the plant. Another thing with the blueberries is that you need a companion planting, and I do have one over here. Unfortunately, these do bloom at the same time, but this one over here was a mail order because I could only get the one blueberry plant when we drove here. They only had the one variety, and you need two different varieties with the same chill hour in order to cross-pollinate and get you as many blueberries as possible. With that said, I'm just going to cross my fingers and see what happens, because some of the ones over here look like they may have been pollinated, but before the other plant stopped producing flowers. But time will tell. I think the flowers here are just waiting to be pollinated, but I have no other blueberry plants that could help that out. The space in the middle between these blueberries was supposed to be part of my fruit bed. Unfortunately, the company we ordered from for our raspberries failed miserably. They sent me 4 plants that were dead when they got here, and the grower insisted that they would rebound. He also told me that the plants were potted plants. They were not potted plants, they were plug plants, which basically means it's the tiniest little pot you can ever get your hands on. And what happens is that growers usually produce them and then they sell them to growers or nurserymen, and they take these plugs and put them into bigger pots and grow them on for the consumer. So needless to say, we got, I'm going to use the word screwed out of 4 raspberry plants, but hey, live and learn. I was able to replace them with a better nursery. Sweeping around the corner here, I have this little spot that I threw in some annuals. I've got some nasturtium there. I'm trying to sprout some other seedlings here, but I'm having a real issue with that. Coming around to this bed, we continue with the fruits. We have a blackberry. These are thornless. I believe this one is Triple Crown. Um, we read about this last winter and we said we had to have that here. So I was able to find one of these at one of the big box stores on our way out here. But again, I wanted 2 and I did a mail order, and the second one has not come in yet. Swinging back here, these are the raspberries that we repurchased from a different grower, and they are phenomenal. They came in looking great, perfect size. They sprouted in a matter of 2 days, and they're going strong. So we were very pleased with this grower, needless to say. This variety is called Caroline Raspberry. Again, it has a lower chill requirement, so we're hoping this one does well, and this should produce raspberries this fall. The other berries, the blackberries, I'll probably have to train the canes up against the fence, and I probably won't get any blackberries from them until next year. In the center here, getting back to the raspberry location, I did put in more zinnias just for another pop of color, and it is starting to bud up, as you can see. I believe these are red. I have another annual plant. This is a gazania, another gazania. They should be mixed colors. Gazanias do very well here in the desert. This spot here, it's empty right now. This is where the other blackberry plant is going to be going. It's not Triple Crown, it's another variety, but it is thornless, and I ordered this back in January and I'm still waiting on it, and I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, but I should be getting that by the end of the month. I have another little circular bed here that I put more of the nasturtiums in, and I'm trying some of the lower growing zinnias, and they're just starting to pop up now. So hopefully that'll give us some more color here. Here's some of the extra potted plants I've got. The other day I did a video on potting up tomatoes. That's the tomatoes over here. I repotted some of my gypsy peppers. Those will be replacing my lettuce plants in another couple weeks. Clint's got some goodies himself. I've got a white marigold here. I got an agasaki over here. That's supposed to have a pinkish red color. This bed here is currently where this spot is going to remain vacant until my grapevines show up. Were ordered with the blackberry plant that I'm also waiting for. I'm going to be getting two grapes, one green, I believe it's Concord, and the other one is Red Flame. So Concord's going to go on one side, and on this side is going to be Red Flame. And again, these vines will be trained up onto the fence, and they're going to be trained to go on either side of this bed as far as they want to go. I can cut them back to control the size of it. But again, this little spot here where Clint has more seedlings started, this is where my other grapevine's going to go. In the meantime, the center here, I had an extra cilantro plant. I just popped it in the ground. I've got a cosmos. Um, that one will have a burgundy flower to it. I can leave that in the ground. The cilantro will be ripped up and consumed before the grapes arrive. I do have a cantaloupe here, which is doing very well. I might even be able to train that up on the wire if I wanted. Another tomato, because I had it, I popped it in the center here. This is that Costco tomato. Campari, I believe, is the name of the tomato variety that they sold in the store. I do know tomatoes do cross-pollinate, but I'm going to go with the fact that the producers of this particular tomato have fields and fields and fields of this particular variety. So there's a high chance that when they did cross-pollinate with each other, it's going to be true to form, but time will tell. I did have a little pot of leeks that were not doing well. These are King Richard leeks. What I did was I just popped them out of the pot. I split them in half and stuck them in two locations. I have another little grouping over here, so we'll let them go and see what happens. On this side, I planted honeydew melon, Sweet Delight. Again, if it wants to grow to the front of the bed, it can and sprawl out, or I will train it up on the wire and just follow the grapevines because it's just going to be here for the summer anyway. And last but not least, I have this bed, and basically this is a repeat of a squash bed that we first started with. However, these are different squashes. The front one is going to be a green zucchini, and it is just starting to set bud. It's not as far along as the yellow one I showed you in the beginning of this video. Then I have another, this one here will be a bush type squash. This one here will be a trailing. This one's called curry. It has almost a pumpkin-y look to it, but it's supposed to be a winter type squash, and it will vine. I'm going to take the vines again and try to either sprawl them out along the ground, follow the beds, or I'm going to train them up on the fence line here. We'll see how that goes. And then on this side, I planted another vining squash, which is a little bit smaller. This one's called Honey Nut, and I read about it in the catalogs over winter, and I said, that sounds delicious, I'm going to get it. Ordered it in the fall of 2025 and got the seeds. And while I was in the grocery store in the winter of 2026, I came across the honey nut squash in the supermarket. It's a small butternut type squash, but the color is a deeper tan, and the interior is a deeper orange color. And the taste is, I would have to say, much nuttier and sweeter than the butternut squash that the normal variety would taste like. So I'm very impressed with that. Not to mention, because of the size, it'll be smaller, and for me, that's great for two people, one meal. So I'm not, again, looking to harvest all of these large size, mammoth size squashes and overwinter them under a bed or whatever the case may be. But we'll see how those turn out. They're just growing now. I wanted to take you over quickly to this side. These are my tomatillos. The wind last night did a number on them, broke off some of the leaves, but it doesn't seem to have affected the plant too much because, as you can see, I've got a little flower opening up here. So this is going to be a purple tomatillo, and I'm going to use this to make salsa. I've got two plants, one on each side. One is doing a little bit better than the other. And speaking of tomatillos, this little gem here is called a ground cherry. If no one's ever grown these before, they should. They are delicious. Basically, it's a tomatillo-looking fruit. it grows low to the ground and it will probably sprawl out of this. Last year, Clint had one plant in the center of this bed and it grew like crazy and filled the entire bed up. I just managed to find one of the remains of last year's fruit. It's almost like a tomatillo where it forms inside this little paper casing. And what happens is that it goes from green, turns brown, and falls off the plant and hits the ground or the bed or whatever. And you pick this up and you open up this little papery casing, and inside is probably this quarter of the size of a cherry tomato. And it's usually yellow in color, and the taste is off the charts. It is almost pineapple-y in taste. At least this one, this Aunt Molly was a pineapple-y tasting fruit. It doesn't have the tomato taste with that a little acidity to it. This one over here, I'm sorry, so this is the pineapple one. It's called a ground cherry pineapple and it tastes like pineapple. The Aunt Molly's supposed to have more of a tropical fruit flavor. I've not grown Aunt Molly before. That's the first time growing it. It was the pineapple one that we grew last year and it was fantastic. Everyone that came here to visit us, we were like, try this, and they were a little skeptical at first, but boy, when they opened up that little packet and had that fruit, they were totally impressed. So it's definitely something that you should try to grow. And again, you only need one because it will go crazy on you. I also know that you can make a jam with the fruits if you come across too many. But I think we pretty much devoured quite a bit. And they do store fairly well too. I just would pick them and put them in a big bowl and leave them on the table outside. And then when we were doing our gardening, I would go over to the table, grab a handful and eat them and walk around some more and come back to the table. Um, anyway, swinging back on the last bed here, I don't know why, my honeydews are so slow compared to the cantaloupes. They're all different varieties, so it's not that it's just one variety. Again, Clint assures me last year the same thing happened to him, and when they did catch up and we did get the fruits. Here's another tomato. That one's called German's Pink. The tomato should be a pinkish color. I have my lemon boy over here, so we have a pink fruit, a yellow fruit, and this one over here is called Chef's Choice. That should be a red one. So we'll get a nice color arrangement going here, not only with flowers, but I also have the different colored fruits going on here. And of course I threw in some more of these celosia here for that pop of burgundy color. Now here's the cantaloupe I was just talking about. This one is like, what, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 times the size of the honeydew. I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to just take what I can get and be happy. I would actually prefer that the harvest of any of the fruits would be staggered out a little bit. I don't need to have everybody giving me fruit at once. So anyway, I think that's a quick wrap. I know this video is a little bit longer. My phone was not happy with overheating, but I think I finally got it. So for now, here's a little sign. Thank you, Emily. Uh, that's it from the Adobe Ring Ranch. A quick overview on the vegetable garden and how things are going. I think probably the next time I should be picking some produce out of here. Fingers crossed. Have a great day, everybody.